What's up, everybody? I'm back, but I have a deck profile here that's a little less than 60 cards. Okay? Now, this deck profile is 40 cards, and it's a pure Gladiator Beast deck. All right? Now, there's been a lot of thought behind this deck list, and there's been a lot of math behind this deck list. So I want to share with you what I consider to be the most standard Gladiator Beast build there is. It's based on the last 9 tops of major tournaments, IRL tournaments, that Gladiator Beasts have had. It's the average of all cards of all the decks divided by 9, which is the number of tops the GBs have had in the past. I forgot how long it's been. But I want to share with you the numbers, and I want to share with you the cards. All right. Let me pull up my phone real quick because I have the Excel sheet. All right. So this deck profile is not going to be like monsters, then spells, then traps. It's going to be in order of relevance and quantity. All right. So I'll start how I think it should start. On average, the typical Glad Beast deck plays 3 Test Tiger. All right? That number is 2.89 copies per deck. All right? I think that can round up to 3 pretty nicely, okay? Then we go with Book of Moon, which is tied with Test Tiger at 2.89 copies per deck. All right? Then another card you can probably guess that's run at 3 is Deep Prison. There were 25 copies run out of 9 decks, which means it's at 2.78 copies per deck. All right, so you can kind of see how this is going, right? These are all the 3-ups. There's only 9 cards here for 3-ups. All right, so we'll move on to the 2-ups. All right, you can kind of get an idea what it's going to be. We got 2 War Chariots. All right, I won't bore you guys with the numbers out loud. I'll put them on the screen. All right, we got 2.11 copies per deck, which is a little over 2, but we round down to 2. And then this is one that I had a little bit of issues with, okay? Because a lot of people like to run Trap Stun, but a lot of people like to run Dust Tornado. All right, so the numbers ended up becoming, because it was kind of 50-50 of this type of removal, so the numbers ended up becoming 1 and 1. And I don't love that. I like having the Dust Tornado on the side. I do prefer Trap Stun. So for this case here only, we're going to run with 2 Trap Stun here. And that ends up being 2.33 copies per deck. So a little closer to 3 than the War Chariots are, but that's where we're at. 2 Trap Stun. Then for the monsters, on the dot, 2 Laquari and 2 Equest. Every single deck ran 2, no more, no less. All right, that feels pretty standard to me, don't it? Now, another card that we have a little under 2 of, it comes out to 1.89 copies per deck. You know, I'd rather just say it out loud. I'm not going to put it on the screen. This is way more fun. 2.89 copies per deck, a little under 1, bottomless, pretty good card. Now, here we start getting closer to the cards that were like 1.56, 1.69, those type of cards. So we have at 1.69 copies per deck is Retiari. I prefer running 2 Retiari over 1 Retiari. The amount of times I need this damn thing is more than I like to admit. Probably because I'm a bad player. But a lot of people run 1 in the main and 1 on the side, which is totally fine. Maybe you can run 1 in the main and have a different Gladiator Beast in here, one of the honorable mentions in the main instead of the second Retiari, but I prefer the second Retiari for sure. And then another 2 of Glad Beast is Sam Knight at 1.56 copies per deck. Definitely don't like running 1 Sam Knight because the amount of times you draw the Sam Knight when you need a tiger, when you need the cat to resolve, or sometimes you even go into 2 Sam Knights to work through like a Necro Gardener. You know, so I really like having 2 Sam Knights, and I think it's better for the deck to run 2. I feel like that's becoming the standard. But to each their own, and this deck is one of the decks where you can really customize it and build it towards like what you like. So yeah, 2 Sand Knights, and then we start walking into the lower than. Oh, sorry, excuse me. We got 2 copies of Compulse. That's at 1.56, rounded up to 2. I do love 2 Compulse. That card is very, very good in this format. A lot of synchros you can just get rid of. Stardust, get rid of. Value Turbo, get rid of those stupid little things. Easy. Then we start getting into the 1-ofs. Now, Darius, 1.44 copies per deck, just under the 1.5 threshold I was using to round up. Darius is another one. I like to run the same amount of Dariuses as Prismas in the deck. So 1 Prisma, 1 Darius, 2 Prisma, 2 Darius. Because you kind of rely more on that Prisma Tiger package, the more Prismas you have. So it's better to have 2 Darius if you have 2 Prisma. If you only have 1 Darius and you lose it, the Prisma's still live, but it's just not as good as it would be if you had, 2 Darius or a Darius and 1's dead. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but let's keep on rolling. All right, so now we get to the on the 1-offs, and we have Wabaku. Wabaku's pretty cool. It's kind of the same vein as Hedgeguard, Shrink, all those things right there. But Wabaku was the most run one. It was 10 copies over 9 decks. We're at 1.11 copies per deck, so we round down to 1. And we have another card that's kind of the same vein. We have 9 copies over 9 decks. Get that? Maybe not every, but the average was 1. 9 Starlight Roads over 9 decks. It's almost like this card is good, right? So it might be dead sometimes, but it wins games. And the 9 GB decks that topped, on average, ran 1. So keep that in mind. Now we start getting into the obviously 1-ofs. Bestiary, you can only run 1. No one runs more than 2 Murmillos, even though sometimes you think about it. But yeah, Murmillo was at 9 copies over 9 decks. No one ran 2. No one ran 0. Cat, if it was at 2, we'd run it, but it's limited to 1. And we have 1 Judgment, 1 Mirror Force, 1 Typhoon. All right, those are kind of the staple 1-ofs there. Now we get down to the Prismas. Not everyone runs Prisma, but at 0.89 copies per deck, then we round up to 1. And that works perfectly with our 1-of Darius. So that's that. With 1 Secutor, not everyone runs Secutor. A lot of people side it, but I think it's way too powerful to side and not having it game 1. It wins you games, and it's just a very powerful card, of course, especially with 3 Tigers. Then Trap Dust Shoot, not everyone ran Dust Shoot. 7 copies in 9 decks. That is 0.78, even though this card also wins games, so you need to run it. And then you got 3 more 1-ofs, all kind of hovering around 6 copies per 9, 6 copies per 9, and 5 copies per 9. You can sometimes substitute this out for another Wabaku. You can play another, like you can play Hedgeguard or something like that. But yeah, these are the most seen and most average cards played in quantities in a 40 card at GB build. I wanted to show you guys not just a 60 card one trick. All right, this deck's mad strong, and I think someone needed to show the world what the standard GB list looks like. All right, now I got a few honorable mentions here. Cards that were just under 50% use rate. So coming in first of the honorable mentions, you guys probably guessed it. Four uses out of 9 decks was Hopalamus. This is the card I usually put in over the second Retiari. I think it's very strong going first. A lot of people side it, and that's why you don't see it in the main deck. But yeah, this card is very powerful. I love it. It's one of my favorite big booty biatches. Yeah, but then we go number 2, honorable mention, is Torrential Tribute. 4 copies per 9 decks, just like Hopalamus. It's another card you can side in and out. And people don't like running it in Glad Beast because, like, when you have tempo, that's like when you win the game, you know. But and this card can reset it to 0. But I think having the Torrential as an insurance option is so strong, so powerful. You almost need to run it. So yeah, And then the third I'll mention is the third Trap Stun or third Dust Tornado. You know how this deck runs. You got to get rid of the back row or play through it. And sometimes it can bite you in the ass if you have to try to play through it. So the third Trap Stun is, my opinion, the best honorable mention third card. Now, I want to count this deck out real quick. I won't do the whole thing, but spell cards in this build, there are 6 of them, all right? If you go trap cards, there were 17 of them, and if you go monsters, there was also 17 in this deck, okay? So that's 17, 6, 17. If you add the Hoplomys, just add it, and you add the Torrential Tribute or the Trap Stun, that's 18, 6, 18, and my OCD brain loves 18, 6, 18. That's a nice 3 to 1 to 3 ratio that it looks and feels real nice in my brain. Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about the side deck. I feel like the side deck with this deck can really be molded into how the GB player likes to play. If they like to play floodgates, they can play floodgates. If they like to be more aggressive with quick play, like Forbidden Chalice or, you know, My Body is a Shield, they can run that type of side deck too. Obviously, every side deck had Cyber Dragon. A lot of side decks had the third War Chariot, DD Crow or Soul Release, Cold Wave. Yeah. So that's my take on 40 card Glad Beast. It kills me to say it, but I needed to post this average build. If anyone wants the numbers, please just leave a comment. I'll send you my Excel file. Yeah. Peace.